For this lesson, we're going to make a double exposure, and that is two photos combined into one. So a picture of some trees and a nice picture of a girl, and then we're going to combine those for this. Just so you have an idea of where we're going, we're going to make 3 layers, a layer with a mask, a layer with your trees, and then the layer with your girl. And I'll show you how to adjust this. So go ahead and open up your picture of your girl. The first thing we're going to do is turn her black and white. So hit Control U for hue and saturation and pull your saturation all the way to -100 and press OK. Now we're going to make a mask of the girl. If you remember how to do that, you go to Select, and then you're going to choose Select and Mask. And make sure, I'm going to do a couple of changes here, so follow these next steps closely. First off, if you can't see this button at the top that says Select Subject, make sure that you're on the correct tool. You'll notice that these tools here on the left, if you're on the magnifying lens or the hand, the button that you need disappears. So make sure that you're on the brush with the little circle around it. And then you're going to press Select Subject. For some reason on my machine, she does not come out very clear, and the refine hair button only makes it worse. So if this is what happens for you, I'm going to go ahead and use my brush tool to go ahead and paint back in some of her hair on her forehead. Make sure you do that too. The next thing I want to do is make some changes over here on the right settings panel. So let's scroll down a little bit until you see a couple of things. Look over here where it says smooth. Let's bring that up to about a 10. Also the feather, bring that up to a 2.2. What this is going to do is make your outline very smooth and soft, and it will look better for this project. Then at the very bottom, do you see where it says output? Yours might be on layer mask. You want to have selection. So again, make sure where it says output to at the very bottom that you have it picked on selection, and then press OK. You go back to the other mode and you'll see you have this dotted line all the way around the girl. We want to make a new layer for that. So while that dotted line is showing, go over to your layers menu and press the plus button sign to create a new layer. Now, without messing with anything, don't touch the picture on your screen. I want you to flip your swatch palette so that the white is on top. If you press the little arrow, you'll see that the white is on top. And if for some reason white is not on top and you have to press the top square and come to this color picture, make sure on the right where you have A, B, C, M, Y, K, make sure those are all zeros. Otherwise, it may look white, but it won't really be white, because sometimes like light gray over here, I mean, it kind of looks white, but you can tell with the numbers, they're not zeros, so it's not a pure white. You want to make sure all those numbers are zeros, and if they're not, you can go ahead and manually change the number. Okay, so now we have white on our top square. Go up to your paint bucket, and remember, if you can't see your paint bucket, it might be hidden behind the gradient tool. So we're going to pick our paint bucket. We have to select the inverse of the girl. So let's go to Select, Inverse. So just again, we are on layer 1. The white square is chosen, the paint bucket is chosen, and we have Select Inverse. So now we'll see this line kind of change. And now it's selecting the gray area behind the girl. And if we press it with the white paint bucket, now it turns white. And it looks really, really good. Let's go ahead and double click on this layer, layer 1, and let's rename it to white. And for the girl or the model, I'm going to unclick. There was a little lock there. I'm going to unclick the lock and double click on layer 0, and I'm just going to type in girl. And that way you'll know what layer I'm talking about. You might want to change your layers as well. So remember the little, I don't know what happened there. Oh, you'll see that when you hide the button, you'll see that the layers are separate. Anyway, let's go ahead and bring in our trees now. So let's go to your tree, open that up, hit Control A to select all, Control C to copy, and then tab back over to your girl photo and hit Control V to paste, and it should make a new layer. Now you're only going to see part of the trees here. That's okay. And where the trees should land, you might have to move your layers. You want the trees in between or right over the girl, okay? So if your layers are not in that order, this won't work. So make sure you have your white on top, trees in the middle, girl on the bottom. And I'm going to go ahead and rename this trees layer to trees. So again, if you double click on the layer, you can rename it. So this looks a little goofy right now, but let's fix it. Let's hit Control, while on the trees layer, let's hit Control T to transform. You'll see some little squares appear. Only pull on the corner, and let's make those trees a little smaller. Kind of get an idea of what we're doing here. At this point, it doesn't have to be exact, but just make it a little smaller. And now let's turn it black and white. So again, while on the trees layer, hit Control U for hue and saturation and pull this down to 0 or negative 100. I'm sorry, negative 100. It's looking a little better. I think I might want to change. Well, let's do this next step. So this next step is really the heart of the double exposure project. In your layers menu, go over to the drop down menu where it says normal. And again, you're on your trees layer and you're looking where it says normal at the drop down. You'll see that you have many different choices in here. And the ones that we are interested in is called screen. So choose screen. Now you're going to have a much better idea of how these trees are going to look. At this point, go to your arrow tool, which is your top tool, and hit Control T to transform these trees. And at this point, let's start moving the trees around in their size and location until where you get something that you think looks pretty good. Now, don't worry if the tops of the trees are cut off a little bit because we can fix that with the next step here. Okay, so I am kind of liking maybe something like this. Yes, I like that. Okay. I think the trees need to be a little darker. So let's hit Control L for levels, and let's try and make the trees just a little darker. And let's make the whites a little whiter. You'll see this diagram is called a histogram. And if I pull the white triangle to the left, can you see how there's a lot of gray in there in your highlights? And so when I pull this triangle to the left, all of that gray disappears to white. Also remember this black triangle over here on the left. This is in charge of all your shadows. So when I pull this black triangle to the right, my shadows kind of get darker. Now, of course, you can fool with this as much as you want, but I'm going to select something I think looks good and press OK. So at this point, why don't you go ahead and save your work, Control S for save, or File, Save As. We're going to save it to your computer for right now, and let's call it something different, like put your name in front of it or something. So add your name. So Mrs. White. And note where you're saving it to. I'm saving it to my desktop. You might be saving it to your downloads. I am saving it as a PSD at this point because I want all my layers. So go ahead and save your work in case your computer crashes or someone kicks the plug. Okay, So now let's refine this. What we want to do is we're going to use the eraser tool. So come over to your tools, and the one you want, sometimes it's hidden, but you want just the plain eraser tool. Now the eraser tool works like a brush. So up here, you'll notice that you can adjust the size of your brush. And can you see the little circle? If I can make my brush really, really huge like that, or I can make it smaller. I'm going to make it maybe about, let's just say around 86. The hardness, I want a very soft brush. So my hardness will be at 0. That will be a fuzzy edge. The next thing I'm going to do is the opacity up here. Opacity will help you have a more subtle eraser. So I'm going to pull this down to about 45%. So you notice when you take your eraser and you again want to be on the trees menu and you start tapping, you'll see that it starts to erase the tree. And it's very slow. It's gradual, which is what you want, because then you're going to get a much better transition, and it will look much more realistic. So you're going to kind of erase some of these leaves on the trees so that her skin looks really pretty and it transitions very well into the image. You'll also notice you probably have like a line right here. So this is a good way to kind of get that line to disappear just by gradually erasing. It should look really good. You'll have to decide whether or not you want to keep her ear. Sometimes it looks better to erase it. Some people want it to show through, so I'm not sure what would look better, to be honest with you there. Make it a little smaller. Ooh, I really like how that's coming out a lot. When you like it and you're ready to save it, the last thing though, I do want to make my trees a little darker with the arrow. So remember, if you use your select arrow, not your arrow, your magic lasso tool, and I'm going to put the feather up to about let's try 100. The front part of these trees is too light. So I'm going to circle the front part of these trees, and I'm going to hit Control L for levels, and I'm just going to try and make them just a little darker, just so they show up a little better, and hit OK. And I think I'm going to actually erase part of the girl's hair because I don't like the way the hair is looking. So again, if you grab your eraser tool, and again, your brush size should be about a 91. Your opacity up here at the top about a 45. And I'm on the girl layer, and I'm just going to kind of click out some of this hair here just to kind of hide, get those trees to come through really pretty. That's really awesome. I'm really liking this a lot. Okay, so when you're finished and you're ready to save it for good, you're going to go to File, Save As, Save on your computer. And this time we are going to flatten it so it's a JPEG, okay? And again, you can call it Mrs. Weiss or whatever your name is, right? So I know that you've changed this file, and hit save. Note where you're saving it to. And then please attach this file to your Google Classroom. Thank you so much.